Let us examine the whispers surrounding Steve Burton's highly anticipated return to the canvas. The word on the street is that the next chapter for Jason Morgan will be a radical departure from the familiar image we have all memorized. He has been languishing in the custody of the World Security Bureau, a shadowy organization that has historically broken even the strongest of men. When you are isolated from your loved ones and forced to survive in a hostile environment, it fundamentally rewrites your psychological makeup. We have seen legacy characters endure similar tortures, but Jason has always been the immovable object. However, it seems this particular stint away from home has finally cracked the impenetrable armor. The man returning to our screens is allegedly not the same man who left. He is returning not as the lethal weapon of the Corinthos organization, but as a man who has finally realized the sheer exhaustion of living a life drenched in perpetual violence. If you ask me, this evolution is both terrifying and utterly fascinating for the long-term storytelling of the show. The most staggering piece of this puzzle is the reported severing of the ultimate bond. For decades, the loyalty Jason held for Sonny Corinthos was the absolute bedrock of this program. It was an unbreakable vow, a brotherhood, forged in blood and survival. Jason was the right hand, the enforcer, the silent guardian who would sacrifice his own happiness without a second thought to ensure Sonny's empire remained intact. But the rumblings suggest that upon his release from the WSB, Jason will firmly and unequivocally reject any offer to return to the underworld. He is reportedly refusing to step back into the role of Sonny's protector. Can you imagine the sheer magnitude of that conversation? The quiet, chilling moment in the penthouse when Sonny pours a drink, expecting his loyal soldier to fall in line only to be met with a cold, definitive refusal. It shatters the very foundation of their history. It creates an unprecedented chasm between two men who once shared a single heartbeat when it came to protecting their family. We must consider what this means for Sonny Corinthos. Sonny has always operated under the absolute certainty that no matter what enemies gathered at the gates, Jason Morgan would be there to eliminate the threat. Jason was his ultimate shield, his safety net, his most trusted confidant. To have Jason look him in the eye and decline the life they built together will feel like a profound betrayal to a man whose entire existence revolves around loyalty and perceived respect. Sonny will be staring at a stranger. The psychological toll on the mob boss will be immense. We have watched Sonny spiral over far less, but losing his right hand, not to death, but to a conscious, deliberate choice, will unmoor him completely. It challenges the character integrity of both men. Is Sonny truly a formidable kingpin without his most lethal knight? And is Jason truly Jason if he is not standing silently in the shadows, waiting for the order to strike? The writers are taking a massive gamble here, dismantling a dynamic that has sustained the show for a quarter of a century. But the narrative twist that truly has the veteran fan community buzzing is the unconfirmed theory regarding why Jason has changed his priorities so drastically. It is not merely the trauma of the WSB custody that has shifted his worldview. It is the introduction of a completely unexpected variable. Whispers suggest that Jason will not be returning to Port Charles alone. He is rumored to be bringing a mysterious woman with him, someone he encountered during his arduous time away from home. This is a monumental deviation from his usual romantic entanglements. We are so accustomed to seeing Jason trapped in the endless cyclical drama of his past, loves the epic supercouple angst, the quiet tragedies, the fierce loyalties. To introduce a completely blank slate, a woman with no ties to the mob, no history with the Quartermains, and no understanding of the Corinthos cartel, is a breath of fresh air that could revitalize the character in ways we have not seen since the late 90s. The speculation deepens when we look at the identity of this mysterious woman. The prevailing theory is that she is the mother of Tristan Roberts, the character portrayed by the incredibly talented Dean Geyer. If this proves to be true, it adds a layer of maturity and complexity to Jason's narrative that we have been desperately craving. Think about it. Jason has always struggled with fatherhood in the traditional sense. He stayed away from his own children for years, operating under the deeply flawed belief that his absence was the only way to keep them safe from the crossfire of his violent life. He sacrificed the joy of raising his own blood to protect them from his enemies. Now, he is allegedly stepping into a ready-made family, choosing to embrace a domestic life that he previously deemed impossible. He is not just taking on a lover, he is taking on the role of a stepfather. It is a staggering reversal of his core philosophy, speaking to a profound weariness with his solitary existence. Stepping into the role of a stepfather to Tristan Roberts would require Jason to utilize emotional muscles he has allowed to atrophy for decades. We are talking about a man who expresses love through protection, through violence, through silent vigilance. How does a man like that navigate the nuanced, delicate dynamics of a blended family? How does he relate to a young man like Tristan, who presumably has his own history, his own traumas, and his own expectations of a father figure? This is where the long term storytelling could truly shine if the writers handle it with the respect it deserves. We could witness Jason Morgan learning how to communicate without a weapon in his hand. We could see him navigating the mundane but beautiful challenges of family dinners, compromises, and emotional vulnerability. It would be a masterclass in character evolution, proving that even a legacy character entrenched in decades of specific tropes can learn new ways to exist in the world. As a veteran viewer, I cannot help but contrast this potential storyline with his past relationships. When Jason was with his past loves, they were often bonded over danger, adrenaline, and a shared comfort in the shadows of the criminal underworld. It was a yearning for a normal life that he ultimately believed he did not deserve, a tragic romance built on the premise that his darkness would eventually consume her light. But this new woman, this mother of Tristan, represents something entirely different. She represents a clean break. She did not fall in love with the mob enforcer. She fell in love with the man who survived the WSB. She loves the man he is trying to become, not the man Sonny Corinthos needs him to be. This dynamic forces Jason to actively choose peace every single day. It requires him to consciously reject the siren song of the underworld to maintain the sanctuary he has found with her. It is a proactive, rather than reactive, approach to love and family. Of course, we must address the inevitable fallout this will cause among the existing canvas, particularly with Carly Spencer. Carly has always viewed Jason as her personal savior, the one constant in her chaotic, self-sabotaging life. She expects him to drop everything, his relationships, his children, his own well-being the moment she calls. How will she react when she discovers that Jason has placed a new woman and her son above the needs of the Corinthos Spencer clan? The resentment will be palpable. Carly will likely view this mysterious woman not just as a romantic rival, but as a fundamental threat to her own security and emotional stability. The writers have an incredible opportunity here to address the deeply codependent, often toxic nature of Jason and Carly's friendship. If Jason truly prioritizes his new family, he will have to set unprecedented boundaries with Carly, a move that could ignite one of the most compelling emotional conflicts we have seen in years. Furthermore, the reaction of the town at large will be a fascinating study in hypocrisy and expectations. For years, the residents of Port Charles have condemned Jason for his lifestyle. They have judged him, feared him, and lectured him about the morality of his choices. Yet, the moment he actually decides to walk away, to lay down his arms and pursue a quiet life as a family man, I guarantee you those same people will be suspicious. They will doubt his sincerity. The police force, the rival mobsters, and even his own family members will constantly wait for the other shoe to drop. The tragic irony of Jason Morgan is that the town that begged him to change will likely refuse to accept his transformation when it finally happens. This creates a brilliant, simmering tension. Jason will have to fight not just his own instincts, but the collective memory of an entire city that refuses to see him as anything other than a killer. It is a rich, textured conflict honoring the soap opera genre. Let us also consider the massive power vacuum this creates within the criminal underworld of Port Charles. With Jason officially stepping down, the Corinthos organization is left vulnerable in a way it has not been since the 1990s. Sonny is aging, his judgment is frequently clouded by his own emotional volatility, and his enemies are always circling like vultures. Without the legendary Jason Morgan acting as the ultimate deterrent, rival families will undoubtedly make their move. The streets will become chaotic, and the ultimate test of Jason's new resolve will be watching the empire he helped build crumble from afar. Will he intervene when Sonny's life is genuinely on the line? Will he pick up a gun to save Carly if she is caught in the crossfire? The true measure of his transformation will be his ability to watch the fire burn without rushing in to extinguish it. If he is truly a changed man, he must let Sonny fight his own battles, even if it means watching his oldest friend lose everything. The addition of Dean Geyer as Tristan Roberts is a brilliant casting move that adds significant weight to this storyline. Geyer has the presence and the acting chops to stand toe-to-toe with a daytime legend like Steve Burton. The dynamic between a hardened, former mob enforcer trying to embrace a peaceful life and a young man who is suddenly thrust into the orbit of Port Charles's most dangerous elements is ripe with dramatic potential. Tristan will inevitably be targeted by Jason's old enemies. The sins of the father, even a stepfather, always visit the children in soap operas. When Tristan's life is threatened by a rival mobster looking to send Jason a message, Jason will face the ultimate dilemma. Does he revert to his lethal ways to protect his new family, thereby proving that he can never truly escape his past? Or does he find a new legal and moral way to neutralize the threat. This is the crux of the entire narrative arc. It is a battle for Jason's soul. I must commend the current writing regime if they truly have the courage to execute the storyline fully. It takes a tremendous amount of bravery to take a legacy character who has generated millions of dollars and decades of ratings doing one specific thing and completely rewrite his purpose. Many fans will undoubtedly be outraged. They want the black t shirt, the leather jacket, and the stoic nods. They want the comfort of the familiar. But as a viewer who has watched this genre evolve over half a century, I firmly believe that characters must grow or they die. A man in his 50s cannot continue to live the life of a 25-year-old street soldier without it becoming a parody of itself. Jason deserves this evolution. He deserves to explore what it means to be a partner, a father figure, and a man of peace. Even if the execution is messy, the ambition behind the idea is worthy of the golden era of soap operas. It shows a commitment to character-driven drama over repetitive action. As I sit back and reflect on the decades of storytelling that have brought us to this precise moment, I am filled with a profound sense of anticipation. We have watched Jason Quartermain lose his mind, and we have watched Jason Morgan lose his soul. Perhaps, finally, we are about to watch this man find his peace. The journey will not be easy. The conflicts with Sonny Corinthos will be heartbreaking. The adjustments to family life with Tristan and his mysterious mother will be fraught with tension, and the ghosts of his violent past will constantly knock at his door. But that is the very essence of why we tune in day after day, year after year. We invest our hearts in these fictional lives because their struggles mirror our own desires for redemption, growth, and unconditional love. No matter how much the landscape of Port Charles shifts, my dedication to this beautiful, frustrating, magnificent show remains absolutely unshakable. I will be watching every single frame, cheering for Jason to finally build a life in the light, far away from the shadows that have defined him for far too long.